Sagittarius, the cosmos called you when you were a child, and now it's all coming true. This isn't a metaphor. This isn't flowery poetry. It's the blueprint of your destiny. Sagittarius, there were moments in your childhood when a fire lit inside your soul for no apparent reason. A restlessness you couldn't name. Visions that left your heart pounding with the urge to run, an unshakable knowing that lay beyond the horizon. Horizons only you could see. All of that was the universe preparing you. The cosmos called you when you were a child, and the most powerful part is, you didn't imagine it. It was a forecast, a preparation, a message etched directly into your spiritual map. To unlock this truth, like this video, subscribe and comment below. I, Sagittarius, embrace the truth the cosmos showed me in my youth. Because if you leave before the end, you'll miss the strongest sign of all, the one that activates everything. The one that could set you free right now. So open your mind, Sagittarius, because what you're about to remember might challenge you, but it might also guide your aim. Do you remember staring at the wide sky as a kid, not knowing why, as if waiting for the next journey to begin? Or that moment when you felt an unstoppable urge to run, even though you were perfectly safe? Or when you suddenly felt a fierce, burning impatience with no idea where the need for freedom came from? That wasn't just childhood stuff. That wasn't your imagination. It was philosophical. It was sacred. It was the invisible map the universe planted in you so that when the time came, this time your soul would recognize the high truth your mind had forgotten. You were chosen to seek before finding. And that's your greatest gift, but also your greatest test. Do you remember that one vision that haunted you for years? Maybe it was a distant mountain range, or a fiery target, or a figure speaking to you without words, but with pure concept. That vision wasn't yours. It was a transmission. The cosmos, showing you the ultimate target you'd eventually hit. Something that now, Sagittarius, is already in your sights. And if it challenges you, it's because it's awakening something that's been dormant for a long time. Do you remember that time you talked to someone and later they told you you were completely alone? That imaginary conversation was real. It was spiritual. It was a direct intervention to keep you from settling. Your childhood was your secret launch pad, your hidden training ground. And now, as everything in you starts to tremble again, it's because that training is being activated. There are truths only you felt, moments no one else could understand. But that didn't make you strange. It made you chosen to see further. And now, Sagittarius, you have to answer this question with complete honesty. Why do you feel like you are about to finally take the shot, even if you can't explain the target? Because that feeling wasn't born today. It was planted years ago. And it was planted in you as a divine compass, a silent directive, a signal that you would embark on a quest not everyone could handle. What confines you now, what keeps repeating, what makes you feel fenced in, isn't new. It's a replay, an echo of a horizon the cosmos already showed you in childhood. Back when you didn't have the words, but you already felt the burning need to break free. Back when you ran without knowing why. Back when something spoke to you from deep inside. That something was the call to adventure. And maybe right now you're starting to remember that one book that changed your perspective. That one trip that made you feel like you truly belonged. That one philosophy someone shared that you never forgot. Those weren't random. They were part of your training, your prophetic path, your calling. Because you, Sagittarius, weren't born just to live. You came to expand, to teach, to transmit the highest truth. And it all started long before you could articulate it. Today, everything you're feeling has deep roots. Roots that tie you to a sacred purpose that's about to reveal itself in full force. That's why you can't sit still. That's why you crave more. That's why you feel like you're standing on the edge of a cliff, because you are. And now that you're starting to see the signs, the question is, will you aim your arrow or will you look the other way? Because if you choose to aim, everything will start to make sense, and when it does, your arrow will fly. So, Sagittarius, if your soul is starting to feel restless, it's because the first warning is already knocking at your door. That deep-seated dissatisfaction, that strange, formless anxiety of stagnation, it's not random. It's an echo. a reflection of something you lived through as a child, when the fear of being small came to visit without explanation. When you'd wake up with the intense need to explore, with no idea why. Do you remember? That was the first message. The cosmos didn't send you a gentle dream or a soft whisper. It sent you a profound restlessness because it knew it was the only way to train you to sense confinement before it became a cage. The fear you felt as a child wasn't just fear. It was a key, a divine signal, a sacred alert. It was teaching you to feel the limits before they were set. Comment below. I, Sagittarius, accept the restlessness as my guiding arrow, and I seek the higher truth because that need to break free that once made you run could be the compass that saves you now. Have you ever sensed something grand was going to happen but no one believed you? People said you were exaggerating, too optimistic, too loud, making things up, and then it happened exactly as you felt. You weren't imagining things. You were forecasting. The cosmos planted in you that strange gift to know what others can't see, to predict the next turn. But who would believe you, Sagittarius, when you were just a child? Who would think those big ideas, those sleepless nights planning an escape, that endless curiosity were actually divine messages, but you knew not with words, with your spirit. And that's what isolated you. That's what made you feel like an outsider. Because while others were playing in the sandbox, you were drawing maps of the world, a certainty that burned, a knowing no one else could understand. The cosmos gave you a foresight so sharp it sometimes felt like a burden, but it was your greatest power. And now, Sagittarius, here's what you need to hear. That same restlessness is returning. Maybe not in grand plans, but in waves of creative yearning, in a gut feeling that there's more you should be doing, in an impatience that won't leave. And even when you try to distract yourself, explain it away, pretend it's nothing, it stays. What if that restlessness isn't your enemy? What if it's your aim? What if you're sensing again because the path is opening? The universe doesn't need words to speak to you. It speaks through your desire, your expansion, your higher mind, and you, Sagittarius, are a specialist in receiving that, no matter how much it challenges your comfort zone. So don't deny it. Don't silence it. Don't try to explain away what your soul is screaming. Maybe you can't explain why a new course feels right to you, or why a place gives you instant clarity, or why you suddenly feel compelled to learn a new skill, but you feel it. You know it's written in you. Because when you were a child, that was your training. To follow the signposts without proof. To trust your instinct for the next location. To walk with faith even when there was no clear path. And now that training is being reactivated. Every sign, every alert, every spike in your curiosity is an inner bell. Don't ignore it. Remember that time you took a detour without knowing why, and later you realized a major lesson was waiting for you there. That one time you just knew to take the leap, and it propelled you forward. That wasn't luck, it was your divine connection. And if you're feeling it again, it's not to scare you, it's to prepare you, because something is coming. And it's not just an external challenge, it's a choice, a turning point already forming, and your soul knows it. Are you listening? Are you feeling the pull? Because the hunger you think is irrational is actually your secret map. And if you're brave enough to follow it, you'll avoid stagnation. But if you deny it, if you bury it, if you force yourself to stay contained by something that feels wrong, then that warning won't serve its purpose. This is your moment to trust yourself more than ever. The arrow that once saved you can do it again. And if that arrow can save you again, Sagittarius, then it's also guiding you straight to the second warning, one you might have buried so deep you forgot it was even real, but now it's resurfacing. Do you remember that person who appeared in your childhood like a sudden light, and then disappeared without a trace? Maybe it was a traveler, a wise elder, a stranger, someone who crossed your path briefly but left behind something unforgettable, a phrase, a philosophy, a concept. That person wasn't random. That was the cosmos's second warning. It doesn't matter who they were or how long they stayed. What matters is the direction they pointed you toward. Because what they gave you wasn't just comfort. It was a message, a key. And if you're suddenly thinking about them now, if their words echo in your mind like they were just spoken yesterday, it's because their message has been activated. This wasn't just a human interaction, it was sacred, a divine delivery hidden in ordinary form. It was never about how long they stayed, only about the truth they triggered in you. Comment below. I, Sagittarius, remember the truth the messenger shared. Because that memory isn't a coincidence, it's part of your divine roadmap. Why do you think some people pass through your life like flashes of lightning, brief, blinding, unforgettable? Why does their voice stay with you, even if their face has faded? Because they were never meant to stay. They came to plant a truth, and now that truth is cracking open. Maybe they told you something like you're a born teacher, or one day you'll see the whole picture, or there's a great purpose waiting across the sea. At the time, you didn't fully get it, but those words dug deep, and today they make sense. Sagittarius, that person was not just a friend or a mentor. They were a messenger. And if you ignore that memory now, you risk losing a sacred code, a compass meant to help you make the decision your soul is standing before today. Because yes, you're approaching something big, something that will test everything you believe. And that phrase, that moment, that strange connection, it's the key you'll need to navigate through it. Don't doubt it. That wasn't just a nice coincidence. That was heaven whispering. And if you're brave enough to open that memory fully, you'll realize the message was there all along. You just weren't ready yet. But now you are. You've grown into the version of yourself that can finally understand it. So don't brush it off. Don't file it away as childhood stuff. That moment left a mark on your soul because it was supposed to. And if your heart is racing now, if your breath caught reading this, it's because the memory is alive and it's guiding your aim again. Sagittarius. Some people enter your life to stay. Others come to awaken your truth. That one came straight from the divine. So what will you do with that memory? Will you cherish it? Will you listen? Or will you let it fade again? Because that single moment might hold the clarity you've been praying for. That person who appeared and vanished left behind a spark. And today that spark is turning into fire. Don't look away. And when that fire starts to rise inside you, Sagittarius, it begins to light up what you've spent years trying to bury. Because now comes the third sign. The one that was the hardest lesson. The one you never really spoke about. The one that changed everything. That moment in your childhood when something shattered inside of you. When you felt confined, too tethered, too exposed to a lie that your honesty couldn't tolerate. That wasn't just a painful memory. That was a sacred trial. The cosmos didn't send it to punish you. It allowed it to happen so you could become who you are now. It didn't intervene not because it didn't care, but because it was forging you, watching, trusting, knowing that what you were going through would awaken a relentless pursuit of truth inside of you. Every lie you faced, every moment of feeling misunderstood, every blow that threatened your optimism was part of your spiritual training. And today, Sagittarius, those wounds are no longer just scars. They are sacred markings, symbols of an inner battle you survived alone. Comment below. I, Sagittarius, honor my freedom won through fire and follow my highest truth. Because what you once believed was your weakness was actually the proof that you are unbreakable. And now look at yourself. Even with the fire you carry, even with the desire for more that still pulses, you're still standing. You're still here, bolder, wiser, more awake than ever before. But don't pretend it didn't hurt. Don't deny the truth of what you lived. Because if you keep treating that chapter as something shameful, something broken, you'll never unlock its power. You, Sagittarius, were a child with a soul that sought truth too deeply. And the world didn't know what to do with that. So it tried to limit you, tried to put a fence around you, tried to convince you that being relentlessly honest was dangerous. But the cosmos knew better. That honesty, that philosophical depth, that relentless optimism, it was your divine armor. And that moment that broke you was actually the beginning of your real strength. Because from that day on, you began to see differently. You saw the big picture in ways others didn't. You knew when someone was settling, even if they smiled. You knew when a situation was a dead end, even if no one said it out loud. And that knowing came from the pain you lived through. So don't curse it, claim it. Because your deepest heartbreak is also the root of your deepest gift. That event you still can't fully talk about. It gave you prophetic sight. It gave you the ability to light a fire in others. It gave you courage in places most people never reach. So ask yourself, Sagittarius, have you been seeing your trauma as a curse or as a sacred marking? Because that changes everything. You're not broken, you're sacred. And now, it's time to step out of the shadow of your past and into the light of who that fire turned you into. The cosmos saw you every second. Even when you thought you were alone, even when you felt forgotten, it saw you hold on. It saw you keep expanding. It saw you grow through the fire. And now it's saying it's time. It's time to take what challenged you and use it as your power. It's time to speak the truth you've been hiding. It's time to rise, not in spite of your wounds, but because of them, because they are proof of the soul that refused to be contained. And if your voice shakes as you tell your story, let it. If your hands tremble as you say what happened, say it anyway, because someone else out there needs your truth. Someone else is still in their dark moment, and your light, your path, your survival story might be what pulls them out. Sagittarius, the cosmos didn't save you from that pain because it knew you would become the one who brings light and perspective into others' darkness. And now, that light is calling you. And when that light calls you, Sagittarius, you start to feel the final shift. Something inside begins to stir. Memories you thought were gone suddenly return out of nowhere. Places, faces, voices, concepts, it all comes back one piece at a time. That's the fourth sign, the return of the forgotten memory. And it's not a coincidence. It's not just nostalgia. It's the cosmos speaking again. This time not with new words, but through the ones it already gave you long ago. Everything is coming back now, because the moment has arrived. That map you haven't looked at in years, that childhood place that popped into your dreams, that phrase you used to repeat as a kid and didn't know why. All of it is divine timing because nothing you lived was random. All of it all was part of a sacred design. And now, it leads you straight to the fifth and final sign, the decision. Yes, Sagittarius, the choice that only you can make, because deep down you already know what you need to do. You felt it for days, weeks, maybe even years, but the fear of failure has you frozen. Doubt holds your bowstring. Guilt clouds your vision. But the truth is, you know you've always known, and this is your last test. Not from the world, not from anyone else, from your soul. Because when the cosmos gives you signs, messages, visions, trials, it also gives you the freedom to choose. And now, all those pieces, the visions, the restlessness, the person who vanished, the pain that shaped you, the memory that just returned, they all point to one question. Will you shoot the arrow, or will you repeat the cycle? Because if you choose from fear, if you go back to what's familiar, to what numbs the desire for expansion, to what looks safe but feels wrong, then everything will repeat. And this time, there may not be another warning. But if you choose from your soul, even if your hands are shaking, you will step into the life that was always meant for you. Not the easy life, not the contained life, but the real one, the soul-deep one, the one where your story becomes sacred. So now, Sagittarius, I'm asking you, what do you feel? Not what do you think, not what do others say. What does your soul whisper when you're still? Because that's your compass, and it's never been louder. The memory has returned, because now you're finally ready. The cosmos has spoken. It has prepared you, and now it waits for your answer. What will it be? Will you step into the unknown, knowing that your entire childhood led you to this? Will you finally become the philosopher and adventurer you were always meant to be? Will you say yes to the divine path that aches for freedom in your chest every night? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe to Cosmic Treasure.